Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, it's the week before Christmas, and I'm going to do a little something, a little Christmassy theme project today. I hope you enjoy it. We'll get to that in just a minute. But before I do, I just want to take a minute and thank everybody out there for all the kind words and get well wishes to me that I've received over the last couple of weeks. And it has been a tough couple of weeks for me. Back around Thanksgiving this year, I picked up a little bug, a little head cold, turned into bronchitis. Fortunately, it wasn't a really bad case of bronchitis and got on some medication pretty quickly, but still, just pretty miserable. About the time everything started settling down from the bronchitis, in fact, I kind of felt like I was back ready to go. Lo and behold, I woke up the next morning and had vertigo. I think I'd shared this with you guys in a previous episode. And for the last week, excuse me, I've really been kind of still suffering a little bit from the vertigo. And thank you again to everybody out there with all the suggestions and ideas and things to do for vertigo. And a really big thank you to one of my viewers who lives down in Valdosta, Georgia, about an hour south of me, Tom Phillips, who happens to be a physician. He happens to be an ear, nose, and throat specialist. And he was kind enough to send me an email and said, hey, if you want to come down here, I'll work you in, I'll see you. And he said he's been very successful treating vertigo in the past. It worked out. I was able to get down there, and he was able to straighten me out pretty good. So without getting into a lot of really fancy medical terms that I'm probably not qualified to talk too much about, you got your in your ears, you have these channels that fluid go through, and apparently from time to time there's some crystals, some little calcium crystals that can form and drop down into these little tubes, and when that happens it kind of blocks that tube and the fluid from going through there, and it's the movement of this fluid in your ears that tells your brain what's going on with your head. And when one of them gets stopped up, everything gets messed up and your brain just gets all confused, and that's what causes vertigo, or that's one of the things that can cause vertigo. That's not always what causes it, but that's one of the things that can cause it. And he was able to treat me using a thing where he took my head and basically took that crystal and just kind of shook it out. I had to go through this maneuver, and he was shaking my head, and I started with my head pointing up and ended up with it pointing down, and goes through this range of movements, and it shakes that crystal and gets it back out of your ear canal. And since then, guys, it has been awesome. I've still got just a little bit that I'm dealing with, but I mean, it's virtually nothing compared to what it was before. And he told me that I'll probably still have some issues for about a week or so afterwards, but really solved the problem. And a lot of you guys suggested that I have this done, but Dr. Phillips, thank you again. I mean, you nailed it. You did a great job. So I just want to say thank you. I am back out in the shop working now. In fact, this past weekend on Saturday, I spent pretty much the whole day in the shop working on the Jimmy DiResta bandsaw. I don't quite have a video ready to go on that yet, but we did get some stuff done on that. So you'll be seeing some more videos on that project coming up here very soon. But today, with Christmas being this week, and I thought that we would do a Christmas themed video, and in the mail I got a couple of little pouches from a good friend of mine out in Texas, Andrew Alexander, who goes by Blacksmith Tools on Instagram. So if you guys are on Instagram, if you're not following Blacksmith Tools, I would highly recommend you do so. He really posts some really cool stuff. And while, as the name implies, he's a blacksmith type guy, but he actually is really into all kinds of old machinery as well, and he posts some really cool stuff. Andrew and I have gotten to be very good friends over the past couple of years. I've actually been out to his place a couple of times in Texas and the Dallas area, and anyway, he sent me a Christmas present. This is a Christmas themed Christmas present, and we're going to do a little project with this today. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to zoom you in here and show you this and have some fun. Well, guys, I lied. I meant to tell this when I was doing that a while ago, and I wanted to mention my anvils because there is a tie-in to Christmas on these anvils, or at least one of these anvils, and I think I have told the story on both of these in videos in the past. It's been a long time since I've talked about this anvil on top. The anvil on the bottom is a 400-pound Fisher & Norris anvil that I got back in the late 1980s at a yard sale. Believe it or not, I picked this thing up for $50, just unbelievable find. Even then, before anvils have gone through the roof money-wise, that was just a steal. And in today's world, I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's in very good shape. And we made a base for this thing in a video probably a year or two ago. So if you want to look that up, you can find that video and see that project. But this anvil on top, this was the first anvil I ever got. And there is a neat Christmas story around it. When I was in high school, I took a metals class in high school, and my teacher, Dave Averitt was his name, he was a blacksmith. This was my freshman year in high school. And I really got interested in blacksmithing because of him and the influence that he had on me as a teacher. He actually had a little forge set up there in the shop where we were doing some blacksmithing work at school, and I just couldn't wait every day to get down there to the shop, and particularly when I had the chance to get back there and play in the blacksmith shop. I started setting up my own little blacksmith shop at home. I built a little forge out of a disc off of a disc hair and some pipe. We welded it up in class, brought it home. I was using a hair dryer for a blower at the time. I did eventually find a hand crank blower, but I couldn't find an anvil. And you know, this is back before the days of the internet, and finding tools back then, quite honestly, was a lot harder than it is now. Plus, being a 15-year-old kid, didn't have access to a lot of money and a lot of other resources to go out and find an anvil. But I was using just a big chunk of metal that I had found as an anvil in my little blacksmith shop, but I really wanted an anvil to use. And that year at Christmas, complete surprise to me, I went to my grandmother's house, which was a tradition every Christmas morning. On my dad's side, we would go to my grandmother's house, and all of my dad's brothers and sisters would be there with their kids, and it was just a big family thing. And each year at this Christmas gathering, you know, my grandmother, who was a single grandmother, my grandfather had passed away many years earlier. She didn't have a whole lot of money. There was a slew of us, kids and grandkids and great grandkids and everything else. So, you know, usually when the Christmas presents came around, you know, you'd get a pair of socks or something. And, you know, as a kid, that wasn't always the most exciting thing. But that year at Christmas, when all the gifts were given out, I hadn't gotten a present. And I really, you know, I'm old enough at this point where, okay, I'm not going to make a big deal about this, you know, probably got misplaced, or, you know, I'm sure she didn't forget about me, but, you know, no big deal. I really don't need another pair of socks anyway. I'm just not too worried about it. But after all the Christmas presents were given out, my grandmother came up to me. She says, "Oh, I forgot your present. It's sitting out in the garage." So I walked out to the garage and opened up the door, and sitting out there right on the steps going down to the garage was this anvil with a big bow tied up on it. I never will forget it because it was absolutely one of the greatest Christmas presents that I could have had. It was an anvil. And then she told me the story that this anvil actually belonged to her father, my great-grandfather, who I never actually met. Mose Fleming was his name. And so for me, you know, that's been, wow, 35, almost 40 years ago, not quite 40 years ago, 35 years ago anyway. How many Christmas presents do you still have that you've got as a child 35 years ago? I'd venture to say that very few people out there still have something that was given to them as a Christmas present that long ago. This right here is one of my most prized possessions. It meant a world to me then because I needed an anvil in my shop, but I have kept it all these years, and there's not very many tools in my shop that I would really hesitate parting with and selling, but you know, this is something to me is priceless because it was given to me by my grandmother and it belonged to my great-grandfather. So we're going to actually use this anvil to make this Christmas project today. So the Anvil is a 77-pound anvil made by Soddefors. It's made in Sweden, and it's in pretty amazing shape considering what it is. So what did Andrew send me? I think this is just the neatest thing, but he has some little Christmas trees. Looks like they were cut out on a laser or water jet, and there's little holes in there, and look, we got little brass rivets to make the decorations on the tree. And what you do is you take the rivets, you put them in the holes, and you peen them over on the other side. And I'm just excited to do this. I'm going to move these rivets so they don't bounce all over the place. All right, so when you're riveting, you take a ball peen hammer, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to start by just kind of flattening it, and then we'll go to the peen side, and we're going to peen that over. Look at that. Isn't that cool? All right, we're going to do that. What was that, 5 more times on that one? Rivet number 2. And one Christmas ornament. Now, is that not the coolest thing? I know you guys are probably thinking I'm crazy, but this is just the neatest thing to me. And let's see, he's got some little pieces of yarn in here. We'll take a piece of yarn here and tie that up on there. All right, is that not the coolest Christmas ornament you've ever seen? I've got 5 more of these to make, so I'm not going to bore you guys to death with them. I'm going to make these and enjoy doing it, hammering on my anvil, making Christmas ornaments on my Christmas anvil. I'll be back here in a minute. And there we go, our little Christmas tree ornaments. Compliments of my buddy Andrew Alexander over at Blacksmith Tools. Follow him on Instagram. Highly recommend it. Andrew, thank you, buddy. You nailed it. This is an absolutely wonderful Christmas present, at least in my book. It's the little things that make the biggest gifts at Christmas. And Andrew, that was a wonderful idea, and I can tell you I absolutely enjoyed the last 30 minutes out here beating these little rivets on my Christmas ornaments, on my Christmas anvil. And the whole time I was doing it, I was just having great, wonderful memories of my childhood and Christmases in the past. And anyway, thank you very much, Andrew. Greatly appreciate it. And guys, to everybody out there, I just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas this year. I want to thank everybody that's been following my channel and everything else. We continue to grow. It just blows my mind that so many people are interested in watching me piddle out here in the shop. But I just have a great time with it. I hope that you guys do too. And I hope that we're going to have a lot more time in the shop together over the next few years as we continue to work on all kinds of projects out here. It's just been a great time. So Merry Christmas to all. And with that, I'm going to get back to work and working on the Jimmy DiResta bandsaw, and hopefully have you some more content coming on that soon. Thanks guys for watching. Again, Merry Christmas, and we'll catch you on the next video.